How
Hi,
are
how
you?
are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's a
I'm
pleasure to meet
good.
you.
You too. It's a Monday morning here. What coast? Well, where are you at?
I'm in Texas.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah,
My
where are you?
son, I'm in Northern California. I'm in Santa Cruz area, so on the coast of California, upper
Nice,
northern.
nice, very cool.
Yeah, and my son goes to Baylor there in Texas, so I visit
Oh,
Texas frequently.
down in Waco,
Yep.
Baylor Bears. I've learned like Texas is the only like they have all these hand signals for all the different different colleges and
Oh yeah, the
universities.
Horned Frogs. Yep, that was his best
Yeah,
friend was the Horned Frogs. Yep. Yeah, I
yeah,
went to my first, well, not was my first, but I went to a basketball game last weekend and it was, they had everything. I just tried to keep up with all the stuff, but it was so cool to watch.
yeah. I'm from Canada originally, and it's different. It's very different down here. It's its own thing, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Well, you guys have like hockey up there, right? I mean, people are
Oh yeah.
kind of
Oh
crazy about that, right?
yeah. I played last night. I'm still crazy about it. I play 4 times a week on 4 different teams down here in Dallas, and yeah, it's
Four
just
different teams? How the heck do
yeah.
you stay up with that? How do
It's
you
my
play
hobby.
yourself? No.
Yeah, it's just my hobby. I mean, yeah, 4 different rinks, 4 different teams, 4 times a week at least. I'm on the ice.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. Helps me keep me sane and go to the gym 6 days a week. And yeah, it's just obviously you do as well. 75 hard, CrossFit EAS. I mean, yeah. Oh, and I
Yep.
see I see the Waco sign now.
Yep. Yep. I got a little representation of all the stuff I love. So there
I
is
love it.
that.
I love it.
Yeah. So we're already rolling, just so you know. I don't know if you've listened to my podcast, but we just start chatting and edit it up and that's how we go.
Oh, perfect.
So how did
Perfect.
you end up in Texas from Canada? Is
So
that
I'm a
part of your
dual
story?
citizen. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
a dual citizen. My dad was born and raised in Michigan, and I spent a lot of time in and out of the US for school and for modeling and stuff like that. And I was back in Toronto, like I was traveling constantly for modeling for about 3 years, which is fantastic, but like it really starts to weigh on you, living out of a suitcase and then you make friends or start dating somebody in like a certain market, and then all of a sudden your agency's like, okay, so and so wants you, and whatever, you just let pick up and move. So I put down roots in Toronto for like 7 years, but I got tired of the cold winters, and
Yeah.
Toronto's very expensive, the taxes are very
Mm.
high, and I just felt like I needed a change. And being a dual citizen, I had the opportunity to come down here, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to look back in 10 years and wonder like what if, or that kind of. So I was like, let's do it. I grabbed my little dog here, and I grabbed a U-Haul trailer and just headed south 26 hours. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm so glad I did. It's been wonderful. I love
So
Canada, but it's been
as a
wonderful
as
being
a
here.
dual citizen, do you have to go in and out of customs every time, or it's kind of just like being domestic, so you don't have to worry about that? Just
I mean, they just the formalities of customs. But when I'm coming into the US, I give them my US passport, like what they want to see. And when I'm going back to Canada, I give them my Canadian passport, what they want to see. So it's just like
easy.
super, yeah, super easy. And like I said, it's one of the best. I always say after life, it's the best gift my parents could have given me, because it's given me the opportunity to, like I said, to come and go, and just the work opportunities, the schooling opportunities, like anything. It's a wonderful thing to have, to be able to have that freedom and flexibility to, just come and go between the two countries. So
Yeah. Well, and you
yeah.
can kind of take the best of both worlds and
Yeah,
leave the rest
exactly.
if you needed or
Exactly.
wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. So yeah, it's worked out great. I love Texas. Texas is very the people are super friendly, which I didn't really
Very.
know anything about Texas before I moved down here. But I mean, as you know, the people are very friendly, and so are Canadians, obviously. But you get to the major cities, and everybody's just trying to make it and sitting in traffic, and
Ugh.
snowstorms and all that kind of stuff. But the weather's fantastic, down here. And
You
like I
must
said,
be in southern Texas. No?
no, I'm north. I'm like an hour north of Baylor, of like Waco.
Oh, okay.
I'm in North Fort Worth. So
Oh,
I'm
totally.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm up there. Like I go through Waco all the time. Like when I'm going down to Austin or San Antonio, just like hopping on 35 South and
Yep.
go through there. I don't really know much about Waco except for Baylor and Chip and Joanna Gaines.
And
That's
Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper
and Dr.
originated
Pepper.
there.
That's right. Yes, you're right. The birthplace of
That
Dr.
is their
Pepper.
little claim to fame. But I
Yeah,
mean, when I'm there, I'm like, I gotta have some Diet Dr. Pepper for sure.
yeah. I'm not a big soda person, but a Dr.
Mm-mm.
Pepper is pretty nice every once in a while. if
Yeah.
I do, I'll go for like a Dr. Pepper. And like I was looking at the other day, I was looking at the all the flavors in them, and there were some really surprising things in there.
Really.
Like you wouldn't expect. I'm like, who
Like flavors or like additives? I mean, because there's both.
flavors? The
Yeah.
actual like what they use for the flavoring. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, whatever. But yeah, there's some pretty surprising stuff in there. I'm like, who made this? Like some mad scientist just like dumping in like 26 or something like
Yeah.
random things. But
A doctor apparently
yeah,
started
apparently.
it. And then we've
Yeah.
pretty much swayed really far from that, if I had to guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's not exactly a sports drink. Let's just put it
No,
that way.
not at all.
And
Not
even
at
the
all. It's
sports
like
drinks
my
nowadays.
guilty little pleasure. Like if I go out with people, I'll have a Diet Dr. Pepper for a meal. But other than that, yeah, I don't drink a lot of soda either. It's just not good for you. Not the one with all the sugar and not the one with no sugar that tastes good.
Yeah, I just once you get out of the routine of it, like
Mhm.
we start getting a little bit older. I know that for me, it was just like I got out of the routine of it. I just started drinking, a ton of water, and like
Mhm.
I don't know, you kind of lose taste for it. And like whenever I have it, I'm like, this is intense. Like it's such a like flavor, like it's the bubbles, everything. It's like, yikes, like this is a lot. I'm just like a goof that way, but I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot to take in, but no,
it's
it's
true.
I mean, hey, to each their own. I mean, obviously tons of people love it, and yeah, to each their own.
I think like for people like us, where we've gone pretty extreme with health and organic and, the right things for our body and what feels right. Anytime we stray from that, what used to taste like mild and normal is now like, oh my God, what the hell is
Yeah,
that? And our bodies
yeah,
are like, holy shit, what was that?
yeah. I mean, when I was before I figured out taking care of my body, and when I was an alcoholic and stuff like that, like I would, fast food was 85% of my diet.
Oh,
And I haven't had McDonald's in probably 16 years. And I don't know what my body would do if I put McDonald's in. It would just be like probably like putting like diesel in a gas engine and be like, what are you doing, dude?
yeah. At
Like,
first it might be like amazing and then be like, what the hell are you doing?
yeah, I'm sure it would quickly be coming out of one or other end. I'm sure my body would be like, we're getting this stuff out of here
Yeah.
ASAP.
Well, and
But
McDonald's is like the worst of the worst too, if we're talking quality, for sure.
yeah, everybody's saying I need to have Whataburger like as a
Mm.
Texas
That
thing.
is a Texas thing. It
I need to
rivals In
try
and
it.
Out, which we have here. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's In-N-Out here. I've never had In-N-Out either, and
Oh,
I've never had Chick-fil-A.
ah, okay. Both
So
those are good. Whataburger, I tried it. I didn't get it, but I know
no,
that at least with In and Out and Chick-fil-A, they have like good core values and they try to use good products, or at least it
that's what I
feels
heard.
like it. It's like a healthier fast food, but it's still fast food. I mean, anytime we could just make ourselves a burger at home with organic meat and cheese, and that's way
That's what
better.
I'm saying. And I eat them all the time. They're like, "Don't you like ever want a burger?" I'm like, "I eat burgers all the time. I just
Oh.
make it at home and I make it the way I want. And sometimes I'll just do like a lettuce wrap burger with like
Mhm.
some nice cheese. Like, and I just, I know what's in it and I
Yep.
enjoy it and it tastes delicious and it's a fraction of the cost. And just like,
Yeah. And
yeah, I just,
what oils it hasn't been cooked in. Like you're
yeah, of
in
course,
total control and it feels so much better that way.
of course. But I get that. Like, I was talking to somebody earlier and they were like, I just don't get it why people don't eat or, aren't healthier. And I'm like, well, first of all, there's a lot of understanding to learning what your body needs. And, when like we've taken a lot of time to learn for ourselves how to take care of our bodies and how to treat it and what's good and what's bad. So there's that part of it. And I think people just don't know, but there's also the convenience and the cost factor. Like I
Yeah.
get it. Like it's a lot easier to drive through Whataburger and it's a lot cheaper just to throw, four Happy Meals at your kids and get them fed. Like
Yep.
I get it. I respect it. Like I get it. Like it's a thing. I mean,
Mm.
we probably spend a lot more food money on food than majority of people, but it's that important to us. But like I said, I understand it. I don't look down or think differently of those people at all because yeah, it's just the way you have to survive.
Yeah, I mean, it's how I unfortunately raised my kids when they were young because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't have education on health or anything else. I was always on the go. So that was exactly the lifestyle I raised them. And then, like, I tried to change it on them, and they were like, wait, what? Now we're doing this? I don't think so. So there was
Yeah,
definitely some pushback. But I mean, it's not even cheap these days. Like the
really.
pricing everywhere has gone up so much. And like for myself, I've noticed since I started intermittent fasting, my quantity has gone down. So quality isn't as bad or expensive because I'm eating so much less and getting the same results. So there
Right.
is a psychological effect to that as well, where we are always wanting more, 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 as opposed to let's just have quality instead of quantity.
Yeah, it's true too. How do you find the intermittent fasting? What's your schedule like, and when
Love
did you
it. So
start doing it? Like how
So
what's
I've
your
been
story
doing
on that?
that off and on over the last 4 years. In fact, last week I just
Well,
did spontaneously. So I went and saw my son at Baylor, and he had done this performance, and he was like, yeah, last week I did a 3-day fast because we're getting ready for spring break, want to look good. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
cool. And so we ate crappy the whole time we were there. And I was like, fuck it. Sorry, if my kid can do it, I can do it. And he did
yeah.
it because I had done it previously. So I just did a 4-day fast last week, and it just gets
Four
easier.
day. Wow.
Yeah, I went 4 days. Um, it gets easier the more you do it. Typically, I only eat about one meal a day, and your stomach
Really?
shrinks and your blood sugar goes down, and it just becomes like a normal way of life. And for me, I just realized how much I grossly overate, that I
Right.
didn't need to, because now I'm proof of how much I stay strong and energetic on so much less. So I love it. I
Yeah.
started with the window, then it was just 2 meals, then it's down to one meal. I cut out the snacking, the late nights, the breakfast, all that stuff. But it works for me, and I love it.
Yeah, it's great for our bodies to actually use what's in there. You know,
Yeah.
it's like having a fridge full of groceries and then going to the and a pantry full of groceries and then going to the store to like pick stuff up. And there's just the stuff that stays in there. You know,
Yeah.
like I got sardines and chickpeas and whatever, like just stuff that's just randomly in there. It's like it just stays in there for the longest time. And like our bodies, it's a similar thing like with the fasting where we can actually
Mhm.
use all of and get all the nutrients and process all of it like properly because we're not just like hitting the next meal. That's something I need to look into. Like I'm good with um time between meals and portion sizes and obviously
Mm.
like the quality of food that I'm taking in and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I feel like I don't know. I'm always curious to learn and to try for myself. Once I've done a lot of research and learned
Mhm.
enough about it, and then figured out like, oh yeah, this could work for me or not. Just try it out for myself. Except for anything illegal, I've never put anything illegal in my body, and I never will. But that's just
Good
my
for you.
personal thing.
Good for
Yeah,
you. Yeah, it's interesting because if you look at cavemen, right? So it's like the hunt and the kill. So they'll go days without eating. They'll finally get a kill. They'll overeat because it's going to go bad, and then they don't eat for a few days. So it's almost like genetically wired into us for
right.
survival. So it's not as hard as you might think. And then you just sort of retrain your brain. Like for me, what made sense about it is it's work to process food. So you're eating multiple times a day, 5 times a day. Your body's just working, 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 trying to just process that food. Whereas if you give it a break, now it can actually regenerate and produce better effects in your body that isn't constantly just burning the fuel. It's burning your reserves and turning over that fat and creating, a good environment to live in, kind of thing.
Yeah, for
Plus, I
sure.
was a
That
meth
makes
head, so
sense.
it's pretty familiar for me. I'm like, oh, it's like the same thing, but I don't do drugs now to do it. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I'm a recovering drug addict as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's yeah, we have a all or nothing kind of mentality though.
a little
Sometimes we
bit,
have to be
a
careful
little
with
bit.
it.
And
It's
and I'm
I
here to say you don't outgrow it. I mean, at least I haven't. I am still 100% that way.
No, and something that I have to be very aware of as well with that like addictive
Mhm.
personality, addictive thing, like even doing, good things like I've never like weighed my food or counted my
Mhm.
macros just because I know I'd get obsessive with it. I would
Yeah,
go, too much with it. And I had an eating disorder for about 8 years with the whole like modeling thing. And,
yeah.
that started to get in my head and that kind of like I always say that I was a functioning bulimic because I'd wake up and eat my healthy meals throughout the day. And then it was like when I was alone with my thoughts and I needed some kind of escape, then I would just like get, $100 worth of junk food and just like pig out and then, just purge it up. So
Mm.
yeah, but even like I said, with healthy things, like I said, I play hockey 4 times a week. I'm in the gym 6 days a week. And then I was running 6 miles a day, like every single day. I'm
Wow.
like, that's too much. I'm like, it's great exercise, but I'm like, my knees are screaming. I'm not
Mhm.
getting any younger. I'm like, that's that addictive mentality, and I need to like manage and balance that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's our greatest asset and our worst asset.
Right.
I think it's for sure like if we're gonna do something, we do it like to the extreme, and that can
And
be
all in, like I am an
all
all in
in.
kind of person.
Yeah, for sure. There's no halfway for us. There's no dipping the toe in the water. It's like, no, we're doing this. Like, we're absolutely doing this.
Totally. So is that how your addiction began because of the modeling and all that? Like what for you, how did that occur in your life or when did you notice?
So no, mine goes way back.
Mm,
The day before my 21st birthday, my mom passed away very suddenly, very unexpectedly. And it just, it shook me to the core. Like, I thought my life was over. My mom was my best friend, my biggest cheerleader. Like, I could talk to her about anything. She was always there. And then I started to deal with mental health issues and severe anxiety and clinical depression and panic disorder and self-harm stuff. And that's when I realized, like, I started taking medication for that, but I realized that I could really self-medicate with alcohol. And
mhm.
I became an alcoholic pretty quickly. And I spent a better part of 3 years being like a non-functioning alcoholic. And
Wow.
that's where my first like big addiction kicked in. But I got very lucky though. I got a really bad case of acute pancreatitis when I was
Oof.
25 years old. And it was, yeah, it was nuts. I was in the hospital for just under a month. I had to have 5 blood transfusions. I lost 60
Wow.
pounds in total,
Was that
40 in the
from the
first.
alcohol?
It was from drinking. Yeah. It was
Dang. That's severe
absolutely,
at that age. That is
yeah.
severe.
And that's exactly what they said. They're like, dude,
Yeah.
like, I remember the guy who was the pancreas specialist who was overseeing my case as I was getting ready to get out and, just happy to be alive. Because when you're 25, you think you're like invincible and you're just
100%.
like, I was gaining weight. I was like all these things. But I was like, I got this. And then you're laying there and you're laying in the hospital bed and it's nighttime and all you can hear are like the machines that are keeping you alive and stuff. And you're like, wow, this is, no pun intending, but it's very sobering and
Yeah.
it scares the hell out of you.
It's real.
But I remember the younger guy, like the pancreas specialist, like, he's like, dude, I don't know why, but like the severity of what you got is what we see in people who are like 70, 75 years old and they've been drinking their whole life.
Yeah.
Like, people your age, they'll come in for like a day or two or something like that, but they're like, that's nuts, man. Like, and
Mm.
he's like, alcohol can't be a part of your life. And I was like, after this, not a drop. So I've been sober from alcohol for 16 years, but
Congratulations.
thank you. I appreciate that. But I didn't deal with the trauma of my mom. And
Mhm.
then I was a professional lacrosse player. I was having a great season, tore my knee. And I was like, okay, maybe it's time to call it. I'm a big believer in one door closes, the other one opens.
Mhm.
So I decided to start doing some modeling and look into modeling. And that, started to pick up. And I was traveling, went to South Africa and then went to
Oh,
Miami. And
nice.
yeah, I've been all over the world and been doing it, yeah, now 15 years and still modeling. But I, as soon as I got to Miami, I went on a casting and was sexually assaulted by this designer, um, which messed with me big time. Cause I was like, as it was happening, I was like, what the hell is going on? And, with my history of like losing my mom and
Mm.
with lacrosse and stuff, like I've been in a lot of physical altercations. Like I've been in a lot of fights and
Mm.
I've, stuck up for myself, my friends and whatever. So that my first reaction was like, oh, I'm going to kill this person. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to like beat this person to death. And then I was like, oh no, because then I'll go to jail. So I got myself out of the situation. I didn't tell anybody about it because this is like 2010. It's before the Me Too movement. But I was also
But it
ashamed. I was
had to also
confused.
psychologically mess you up because you're
Oh,
sort of permitting this like misbehavior to occur. And when it's sexually, that can really do a number on you.
dude, I was mad, I was confused, I was
Yeah.
angry, I was frustrated, I was disappointed, you name it. I was the whole game. Like, and then it was about 2 weeks
Shame,
later,
guilt, all that stuff.
all that stuff. Like why, like all that kind of like all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then 2 weeks later is when the eating disorder started. And
Mm.
then once I got back to Canada, like I've, everything. I'm big on distractions, as many addicts are. It's a distraction for us.
Yeah.
And I found when I got back to Canada, traveling was a big distraction for me. It was great to travel around and always be popping up in a new city and, dating somebody new or whatever, like and doing a girl or whatever. Like, but I got back and I was like, oh, I'm coming back to like the same house every day. And then I
Mhm.
started like smoking too much weed, too much nitrous, you
Oh,
know,
shit. Like
Adderall,
whippets.
like,
Yep.
yeah, dude, those things are so addictive.
Well, and
Adderall
when
like
you're doing
crazy.
that, it's like the up down. You're just going from one extreme to the other. Like, I need this to get up. I need this to get down. I need this to get up. I need this to moderate. Like, it just becomes the lifestyle of managing your mood
It
based off
is.
what you have to perform.
It absolutely is. And
Yeah.
then like whenever I had a break, like, a few days, I would just go on these Adderall binges where I'd be up for
Mm.
like 3 or 4 days, like just, just tweaked out on Adderall. And I had so many like, so many rock bottoms where I would, dump all my weed and all my Adderall in the toilet and be like, this is it. This is the last one. Like, and then a couple days later, I'm like, maybe I'll just get a little bit, like maybe a little bit.
Yeah. I'm feeling a
But
little
I was,
tired. I'm feeling a little this. Yeah.
yeah, I got to get some stuff done. My house needs to be cleaned. Like,
Yep.
I bet I could
Yep.
just, like, bust it out with some Adderall. Like, but like slowly, I was starting to have I guess like my mind or the universe, whatever you want to call it. Like, I was having just starting to have bad experiences with each one. Like, I was
Mhm.
smoking like 2 ounces of weed a week by myself, and like
Wow.
it went from like a fun, like, hey, I can just sit here and watch cartoons and like smoke, but to like I started my own fitness business, and I would just sit there and panic about all the things that I should be doing for my fitness business as I was high, but I didn't have enough motivation to do it. So I was like, this is not a fun place to be. I'm done with weed. Same thing with the whippets. I remember I had a shoot and I came home and I went to like a culinary outlet store, and
Mm.
I told them that I owned a restaurant. I got 300 whippets, 300 cartridges of whippets. And I
Wow.
was like, yes, like this is like, so I
This is a
dumped.
good weekend party right here.
Oh, that was like, I was gonna do it in a day, man. I was like,
Oh, man.
I was very insular as well too. Whenever I was like I was always like, it wasn't like, hey, let's have a party, get together. I was like,
Mm.
everything on the outside looked great. I'd go, I'd be sober for
Mm.
modeling for my clients to go to the gym, and then as soon as I got back to like those four walls and my feelings, so I remember I had a pile of like 150 whippets on one side, and I was just cracking them and dropping them, and I broke down. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I can't do it. Threw out all my whippet like paraphernalia, got rid of that. The Adderall took a little bit longer to get rid of, but I just realized that like, the resets of like going
Mhm.
on these 3 4 day binges, like, it takes a couple of days just to get like your head on straight and get that stuff out of your system. And now you've missed 4 days at the gym, and like
Mhm.
my phone's been off for 4 days because I don't want to talk to anybody. And like, so I got sick of that, and I wasn't ready to face my feelings yet though. And I needed something else. And I'd always taken these like over the counter back pills,
Mm.
and they were just from like aches and pains from, pro lacrosse or from working out and stuff. And
So
each
like
pill can,
aspirin or like acetaminophen or something or
it's called Robax. Like
okay.
it's like a muscle releaser.
Okay.
And like I said, they're just on the shelf. And I noticed when I was smoking weed, if I took like a couple of them, I'm like, ooh, I kind of feel really loose. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Real
everything,
relaxed
yeah, exactly.
mentally
I'm
and
like,
physically. Like, I'm good.
yeah, exactly. So I had gotten rid of everything else, and I was only left with these back pills. And I was like, okay. And like with that all or nothing mentality, I went from like taking, it says on the box, like, don't take more than 12 per day. But as addicts, we're like, that doesn't, that applies to the other,
And
that
my
applies to
tolerance is
reg,
here, man.
that
That's
applies to
for
regular
normal
people.
people.
Yeah. So within a few weeks, I was taking 100 pills every single day.
Wow.
I was taking 50,000 milligrams of methocarbamol and 20,000 milligrams of ibuprofen. And every single day I'd go buy a bottle of the generic. I'd go home, I'd dump like 30 or 40 in my hand, just swallow them down. And yeah, just that cycle. And I
That had to
started
do
seeing,
a number on your liver. I mean, for your liver to try to
man,
process that every day, my God.
liver, kidneys,
Yeah.
and I noticed the effects of it. I was starting to lose weight. And I was like, hey, because I was like, would come into modeling shoots. They expect me, to fill out like a large or like whenever they need it. Just this is just my, my genetics and whatever. Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just doing a cut right now, just kind of, trying to, and I'm making up all these excuses, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm having fainting spells in my house. Like, and I'm just going to the gym. I have no motivation or strength and all that kind of stuff. And I finally got to the point where I realized, like, okay, like it's, we want to, as addicts, we want to say it's everything else, but what's in front of us.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm just not eating enough carbs right now, or I need to get more sleep, or like whatever. It's like, no, you just took 100 pills yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before.
Yeah.
And then I finally went to the hospital and I had major internal bleeding from an intestinal ulcer because it was just,
Wow.
it rotted a hole right in my intestines.
Yeah.
Like, but I wasn't seeing any blood when I was like, was purging. I didn't see any blood when I was urinating or anything like that. So I was like, I must be good. But that was when I finally hit the final straw. And I was like, okay, you
Wow.
know, this is enough. Like either I graduate to the next level of drugs like Coke or like prescription painkillers or whatever, and I know once I do that, like my life as I know it is going to be over because I won't be able to manage it and stuff like that. But I looked at myself and I said, okay, you've been doing this for like 15 years since mom passed away, and
Yeah.
it's time to do something different. And that's when I went to therapy. And I was like, I need to face all this stuff that I'm running away from. I need to
Mm.
like face it head on. All these little like nicely compartmentalized boxes that I think that I'm like
Yeah.
tucked away so nicely, they're actually doing more damage. And yeah, things got a lot harder before they got easier, but um
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
I
think
just
the
been on
first
it.
part of healing is handling that trauma,
Yeah,
and like what I've learned over the last year, everybody's trauma is different. For some people, it's divorce. Some people, it's
totally.
a parent dies. For everybody, it's different. But until that trauma is handled, the cycle does not stop.
No, it's not. And you're absolutely right. It's once you deal with it and stop running from it,
Yeah.
and like it was, yeah, it was extremely hard. But I've been sober from drugs for I think 7 years now or
Oh,
something.
wow.
So I
Congrats.
just but it was like I said, it got a lot harder before it got easier. But like I was raised on a farm in Canada, a 500-acre cattle farm, and like
Nice.
in the summertime we would be on summer break from school, but like it'd be time to bring the hay in. So we would just wake up and it'd be like, okay, we're doing 15 hours of hay today. Like we don't have a choice. And or it's like wintertime is 40 below and we have to go out and feed the cows. It's like
Wow.
you don't get to pick and choose like, oh, I don't feel like it. Like it's that
Yeah.
mentality. And same thing with athletics too. Like when you get to a certain level, it's that kind of mentality. So with that same mentality, I went in, and the all or nothing mentality. I was like, this is not going to beat me. Like I'm going to beat this.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just with that same mentality, I'm gonna roll my sleeves up and I'm gonna get to work. And the battle began. But I'm so glad that I did
Yeah.
because it helped me, immensely and to finally face things. And now, whereas before everything was just kind of like I spent so many years like trying to alter my state of consciousness,
Hmm.
like with any kind of drug or any kind of distraction, whatever it was. And I always just lived in like a gray area where the highs were not too high and the lows weren't too low. It was just
Yep.
like right here.
Yep.
And now I relish sobriety for me, and like because the highs feel that much higher, and when you feel the lows, and that's the beautiful thing about life is those things. Whereas before we're just constantly in that area. It's where we're like, okay, when are we going to get our next fix? Or, well, we got to go buy some or whatever. And yeah, it's just, it was a game changer for me. I'm not a preachy non-drinker, a preachy, like, everybody should be sober kind of like, no, do as you please, live your life, eat
Yeah.
what you want, do as you please. Like, by all means, this is just like what I've been through. And I found that this is what I needed to do to live life the way that I feel that I should be. And yeah, I'm glad that I did. So yeah, that's kind of it was I had a few steps of addiction with a
Yeah.
number of different things. But yeah, it's kind of like the shorter version, but yeah,
Well, I mean, we all take different paths, and like you said, I mean, I'm been out and about a bunch of entrepreneurs, and Adderall's huge. It's totally,
huge.
and there's this misconception that because the doctor prescribes it, that makes it okay. I'm like, okay, but they also prescribe fentanyl, and they also prescribe all these other things that are highly addictive,
Yeah.
well past the point of needing them for you to heal or feel better. So
Yeah.
it's interesting because that is a commonality. And like you said, I don't come out all preachy either because
Hmm.
everybody comes to their own when they come to it, but it
Hmm.
is very almost socially acceptable.
For sure.
I
Yeah, I've seen
think,
that a lot. A
yeah.
lot.
Well, it's so funny because you're like, I've never done a legal drug, but I did all this Adderall. And I'm like, okay, I did the same thing, but they call it meth. Like,
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly. I know they're right there, right? They're
yeah, there
like
was just like that
it's
little bit of like, I'm
it's
not that bad, but at the same time, I mean, there's no
it's
judgment from me. I
it
just,
no,
yeah,
it's legal meth. No, I know, and that's what I was gonna say.
yeah,
Like Yeah, and it was doctor prescribed and stuff, but but it's legal meth. I mean, it's
Yeah.
absolutely, and I look at it the exact same way. Like yeah, I mean, I don't know, but you're right. It's socially acceptable because and a lot of very successful on the outside people are hardcore addicted to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And hey,
Yeah.
I
And they
mean,
consider themselves functioning. And because they have, the wealth and the fame or whatever they got
right.
going on, there's no necessity to change in their worlds. Whereas people like you or I needed something very catastrophic to occur and some very high prices to pay if I
Yeah.
continued on the other path. And I'm thankful that I got that in my life so that I could choose a different way and live my life that way, as opposed to one foot in both doors, kind of making it work. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. How long were you addicted to, if you don't mind me asking?
So I started using when I was 11 years old, and I
Wow.
was in my I was in my first rehab at 15, and then
Using meth at 11?
no, I was only drinking and smoking weed at 11, but
Okay.
within a couple of years, yeah, I was doing meth. I was doing a lot of LSD by 14.
Wow.
I was a single kid with I was a only child with a mom that worked two jobs. So I had the ultimate freedom to
You're just like
just be a
latchkey
hellion.
kid.
And I was a total latchkey kid,
Yeah.
poor income housing. So, I ran amok. I was bad, but thank
Yeah.
God, thank God I got that out of my system young. So by the time I was facing 10 years in prison by the time I was 21 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, so fortunately for me, the judge gave me the option to go to rehab or go to prison for 10 years. I chose rehab and I've never
Mhm.
left. So here I am. All
That's
those years
fantastic.
later, I, ended up, having the judge wipe away all the restitution, all the negative effects, but I've just sort of stayed and ended up taking it over and grown it and done what I've done with it. It put me on my purpose at a very young age in life, which I'm eternally grateful for. So now I can help others that were like me.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. And that's what I always say too, is like, and maybe I don't know, like if you would say the same, but like people always ask me, like, what would you do if you go back and like tell, 21-year-old Jonathan just lost his mom, like what would you tell him? And I wouldn't tell myself not to drink. I wouldn't tell myself not to this, do that. I would just say to myself, look, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a long time, but you will make it through and it will get better. Because there's so many times where I was like, I'll never get through. I'll never be the person that people think I am on the inside. Like on the outside, everything looks great. There's Jonathan the
Mm,
model, whatever. Like on the inside, I was broken. And I would just tell myself that you will get through this. Like it'll take a long time, and because all those things that I've been through, all the mistakes I've made and all the lessons I've learned, all that kind of stuff, and a lot of good things along the way too, have made me who I am. And I wouldn't take that back for the world because I'm
same.
pretty happy about who I am. And yeah, I think a lot of us can say that, having come out the other side or yeah, sticking to. So how long have
Oh,
you been
yeah.
sober for?
So like I said, I entered recovery. Gosh, it's been almost 30 years now.
Wow.
I fucked around the first year. Like I wasn't all in. I was there because, I was facing prison and
Right.
I was young. I had it pretty justified. So it took me a few, luckily people there to catch me while I still tried to have one foot in both doors. But yeah, I mean, I'm coming up on a long time now.
That's awesome. No, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. And so like a lot of people, and it's interesting because a lot of people are like, oh gosh, you started so young. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's the best thing that ever happened to me. Like
Yeah.
me becoming a drug addict, putting me on this path so that I could spend my life of service to others. Like that was the
Yeah.
best thing that ever happened to me. I just took advantage of the opportunity that a lot of people get. And then I just persevered, like you said, through the
Yeah.
good, the bad, the up, the down, the craziness. It was for me, there's no plan B. It's just keep moving forward. And I think that's what allows me to handle whatever we have to contend with as, running a healthcare organization in the state of California. Like whatever comes my way, I'm like, what's the other option? There is no other option. We just keep going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. That's the only way to do it. And yeah, I spent so much time like in the past, wondering what if, and like for
Mm,
years it was like, what if my mom was still here and that kind of stuff. And I've gotten to a point where, we can't put the world back the way it was 5 seconds ago, let alone 5 years or 15 years, whatever. It's
mm,
like, and it's easier said than done, obviously, like dealing with depression and anxiety and to not think about the future. But
yeah.
it's so important to learn and pull yourself back into the present. And like you said, just keep moving forward. But like, not thinking too far ahead where it's like you're
Mm.
getting yourself all anxious for nothing. And yeah, just putting things in perspective. And yeah, I'm very routine and very, but I'm very focused on and proud of my sobriety. And that definitely keeps me going, keeps me motivated, keeps me, like I said, I mean, the hockey thing 4 times a week, it's like,
That's
I
amazing.
just be sitting here watching TV with my dog anyway. Like I have no desire to do drugs or be around drugs or anything like that anymore. Um, but idle hands are the devil's playground, you know? So I
It
just
can
like,
be, yeah.
I know that like, I'm like, hey, I'm going out, I'm having fun doing cardio. I'm around, I'm around buddies and good friends and still getting that competitive aspect. And then,
Mm.
I'm not just going to the gym, not just, doing the treadmill. And yeah, it gets me out of my house. I'm very much a homebody otherwise. So it gets me out at least. And yeah, it works.
Yeah, I love that competitiveness. We talk about, addicts,
Yeah.
and that's why I have a CrossFit gym as part of my program because us addicts respond very well to that. I mean,
Yep.
addicts got to hustle to maintain habits. So, if you're going to take away a bad habit, let's put in a good habit. And that's why CrossFit's really good because most of us are very competitive by nature, but this is in a healthy way where we're, gaining health and fitness and, resetting all of the hormones and the biochemistry, all the crap that gets so whacked out from being an
Yep.
addict. Like this is a fast way of sort of resetting that and getting you back to whatever normal is. For a lot of people, they don't even know what that is, but
Yep.
how to get there and not infuse it with just a bunch of cigarettes and bad food and things that aren't going to make you feel good. And you're like, why am I getting sober when I feel like crap? Well, you feel like crap because you put all this crappy stuff in place of it. But if you put only good stuff in the place of it, then you actually feel good. And then you're like, oh, this is what all this hard work is for.
For sure.
Or
Plus you build,
sacrifice. A lot of people view it as sacrifice, but it ends up
yeah,
not being because it
but
ends
it's
up being
not.
so much more fulfilling.
Yeah. It's like, don't you want to have fun? It's like, I have so much fun.
Yeah.
Like fun to me, like I'm having a great time. Like just because I'm not going out on the weekends and getting like, shit faced and, like, like, yeah, I'm having a great time. Like, we just have different ideas of what fun is.
Yeah.
And like you said with your CrossFit gym too, like you get that camaraderie of like community and like
Yeah.
everybody's coming together and everybody's like, working out together and pushing one another and that, competitive aspect, but also that like support aspect and that kind of stuff too. Or it's
Yeah.
like it's a great environment to be in for anybody, but especially for uh recovering addicts,
Right.
just to see that and have that.
Well, and like you mentioned, as we know, when you're deep in addiction, it's a very solo activity. Not a lot of people are
Totally,
out there
totally.
putting it on Front Street because they don't want to be, on
Yeah.
blast, and it becomes very solo. So, teaching people how to be there for other people, how to be in the trenches with other people. It's like having to learn that. It's not natural. And, if they just transition from being sober to now I go work at Gold's, let me put in my earphones, let me do my own thing, you're not getting the full benefit of having to like fully be there for people and present and helping and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. And that's why it's like it's the perfect balance for me. And I, took time to figure that out, and then I went through the whole phase where I was working out too much and I was like
Mm,
spending too much time in like the pre-workout and all the caffeine. And
hmm
I was ingesting like 3,500 and when I came off of Adderall, I was like, oh, I need something. Like,
hmm
and I was like, oh, caffeine. So I was drinking like or ingesting like 3,500 milligrams of caffeine a
Are you
day.
taking like C4? I know that's a big
I was
one.
taking, yeah, I was taking like pre-workout, but I was drinking 8 monsters a day. Like I
Yeah.
was, having my morning coffee, like too much. And I was like, I just realized I was like, that's something that I need to just cut out of my life. Like I, the weights feel a lot heavier when you get off of pre-workout and stuff. And like,
Yeah.
feel a bit more sluggish. But for me now, it's just like, yeah, I mean, I don't think twice about it. And I haven't had caffeine for probably close to 7 years as well. And it just, it
What?
kind of works for me. Yeah.
That's
Kind of,
amazing.
yeah, works for me. It was just because I just will take it too far.
Yeah.
I'll go too far with it. And I like, yeah, like 8 monsters a day. I was like, yikes.
That's a lot. That's one thing I
Yes.
really have to like limit our clients on because again, they're trying to supplement and have their energy. And it's like,
Yeah.
you got to teach them like how to produce natural energy. I mean,
Yeah.
I have endless energy. People are like, how do you have so much freaking energy? I'm like, I don't know. It just is what it is. When you have clean living and you're living a life of purpose and
Yeah.
service, you just naturally, for me, I just have a shit ton of energy.
Yeah, and that's right. That's exactly what I say too. It's like that fake energy where you're
Mm.
spiking your adrenal glands and that adrenaline's pumping because you just, ingested a bunch of pre-workout and stuff, but actually having like stored carbs and glycogen and turning it into
Mm.
glucose and having like that actual energy, it's like that's real energy.
Yeah.
And but I get it. I mean, we live in a society and I'm sure we are guilty of it as well. Like the instant gratification, it's just a lot easier
Right.
just to like, oh, C4, like a couple of scoops of that, and then there you go. It's like
Yeah.
instead of planning like 5 hours earlier, like, okay, I need to get this meal in and I need to have this amount of carbs and just refuel my body. And yeah, but again, I get it. I get, people do as they please and kind of figure things out or just do things the way they want. And I get that. I respect
Yeah.
that.
Until it doesn't work anymore. And then they're like, okay, maybe it's time for change.
Yeah.